Hello everyone, Bryce here with T.L.E. Sharpening, the Looking Edge Sharpening. I've got a couple of knives for you today from custom maker Darrin Sanders. These were sent to me as part of a Passaround on blade forums, as means to test out a couple of different steels and to get to know the maker, I guess. It's hosted by Darrin himself. We've got up top there a large chopper in Z-Tuff from Zap Industries, not a steel that I was familiar with. And beneath it we have a camp knife in 8670. I've got to use both of these knives quite a bit over the last week or two. Sharpened both of them. They're getting ready to go back to Darrin now. I was the tail end of the Passaround, and as part of my requirements for that Passaround, I'm making this video. Who knows, maybe we'll start doing these for YouTube. Lord knows I get enough knives through here for sharpening that I could start doing reviews on them as well. Up top, again, we have a chopper that performed pretty well for me. It's in a steel called Z-Tuff again. Not one that I had used before, but it behaves basically like 3V. From what I understand and doing a little bit of research on it, it has a pretty similar composition to 3V, and that's basically how it performed. I'm sure in a lab setting, you know, if you're measuring number of cuts through rope or tatami mats or whatever it is they're doing with them, you may see minor differences. You know, something like one cut through 600 pieces of rope and the other did 610. But in the real world, if you're out camping, bushwhacking, doing whatever it is you're doing and using the knife, it's going to behave, in my estimation, basically like 3V. The bottom one, the camp knife in 8670, that's a steel that, again, I'd seen before, but I don't have any real-world experience with it. I had sharpened a couple of knives and in that steel, but hadn't had the chance to use them myself. I like this one quite a bit. The chopper doesn't do me a whole lot of good. I'm out in West Texas, where you're dealing with a bunch of dried up scrub brush that's flimsy, and a chopper's just not going to do you any good. You're not going to hack through dried up gnarly wood, especially when it's, you know, barely attached to anything and just moves around. The best you can do is push the thing out of the way. The camp knife, on the other hand, came in quite useful for carving and for food prep use. It's not a stainless steel, but it's semi-stainless, I would estimate. I didn't have any real trouble with it. It certainly didn't start to patina in just ambient humidity, and I wasn't rushing to wipe it off after using it. There's a little bit of staining that you can see on the blade, but it's not too bad. As far as the quality of manufacture goes here, they're both very good. Handles are nice and secure. I will say, I don't know, nor have I met Mr. Sanders, but his hands, it must be quite a lot larger than mine. You can see here that, look, I can't get, my fingers don't go all the way around this handle, and there's quite a lot left on both ends. There's a huge palm swell in the middle on both of them. If I was going to place a custom order for him, I would have to talk to him about handle size. But I do like the way they're sculpted. Despite being far too large for my hands, I didn't have any trouble hanging on to either one of them. Not even the chopper, heavy as it is, and swinging it as hard as I was doing testing. Neither one of them ever tried to slip out of my hand or anything like that. He does a nice kind of medium finish, I would say, on the micarta. It's not a rough finish, but it's not slick either. Pleasant to hold, doesn't snag on anything, didn't cause any callus or rubbing issues on my hands. The chopper came with a very basic leather sheath that you can see here. I like the way it's been put together, actually, with the stacked spacers on either side and then just the opening for the blade. It doesn't provide any real retention other than gravity itself, but it worked. And I don't know, I just kind of like the feel of it, I guess. The camp knife came with a nice Kydex sheath with whatever the hell you call this lock on it. It did what you expect it to do. Stayed on the belt, retained the knife. Good sheath. On to sharpening the two of them. Again, Z-Tuff behaved like 3V. You get a big gnarly burr on it that you got to knock off. It's soft. Stones like to grab if you lean, particularly if you're using a guided sharpener like an Edge Pro or Wicked Edge, or in my case the TS Prof Tech Studios Profile K02 system, which essentially is just an Edge Pro for people who can't hold the knife at the same angle. If you put any pressure on one edge or the other of the stone, if you're not dead flat on it while you're moving, it likes to bite into the Z-Tuff. It's a little soft, so you do have to watch yourself there, but otherwise it sharpened well, took a very keen edge, and it's not going to hold it forever. Of course, toughness is kind of the key here. It's not particularly meant to break down a whole bunch of cardboard, but you can chop into green wood all day long with no issue, and it did, as you'll see, despite being a very thick blade and a fairly soft steel. Take a very nice edge. And the 8670 took a very, very keen edge. This was a lovely thing to sharpen. I don't know if you can catch the mirror there. The way I've got this tripod set up, I can't actually see the screen. But it took a very keen edge, easy to sharpen. And just flies through media when you're doing food prep or anything like that. Let's see if I can get these paper cuts out of here without cutting myself on one of the two knives. Beautiful thing to sharpen. Both of them have kind of a lazy mirror edge on it, I'll call it. I told Darrin I would sharpen them up before I sent them back to him, but given the size, it's going to take quite a while to get a very nice even mirror polish on them. So these have what I'm going to call a lazy or a rough mirror, where it's 98% mirror, and then you may have a couple little stray scratch marks on the edge right now. But they didn't take very long. This one, soft as it was, took maybe 15-20 minutes to go from full test edge, which was dinged up, scratched up. I tested it on some soft braided metal cable as well as a bunch of wood, mesquite and oak and pecan that I had out here. 20 minutes to get all the chips out, bring back a normal edge, and take it up to the level of polish that it's at now. The camp knife didn't see quite the same usage. It mostly did food prep and wood carving, so the edge was in pretty good shape. Oh, it took even less time, maybe 10-15 minutes to go from 140 grit diamond plate all the way up to a 2000 shaft and stone, and then stropping. So all told, the chopper's not really for me, mostly because I don't have any real use for it out here. Again, this kind of West Texas scrub brush, just a chopper doesn't do you any real good. But were I in need for one, I would absolutely look to Darrin for it, and I certainly wouldn't balk at the Z-Tuff. It's, again, it's not going to take care of a big pile of cardboard boxes for you, but it will chop through any wood out on the trail all day long with no real issue. And this camp knife, I may actually commission one from him. We're going to have to talk about the handle size. I need something more like a Mora companion than this behemoth, but otherwise I quite like the knife. I like the very tall blade with the flat grind, the slightly thinner blade stock, and just the overall shape. And I really liked this steel. It's easy to care for, it's easy to sharpen, it held an edge well, and it took a very, very keen edge. So again, these are two knives, a camp knife in 8670 and a large chopper in Z-Tuff from a Mr. Darrin Sanders on Blade Forum. Two fantastic knives, well executed, and two good steels. If you find yourself in the market for either of these things, or any other knife for that matter, I'm sure Darrin can get you sorted. Look him up on Blade Forums. Thanks, this is Bryce with T.L.E. Sharpening.